Can you first please tell us a little bit about yourself?
Absolutely. As you know, my name is I Erin Enguero, and I am a San Jose State alumnus from class of 2016.
Oh.
I graduated with a kinesiology degree, and I also minored in humanities. And I was also named as one of 2 outstanding graduating seniors in my class. So it was a huge, huge honor, and I'm really happy to be back here.
Wow. Okay. Can you tell us, do you have any special style in your learning back in school?
Special learning styles? Well, because of my hearing loss, I am often a visual learner. So when I'm in a classroom, I often look at PowerPoints while the professor's speaking. Maybe I'll check the professor's body language as well as those of my peers. Because of my hearing loss, I can't necessarily rely on every single thing I hear. So I tend to be very observant of my surroundings and look at the potential visual cues most people probably would not notice.
I see. So, and if I may ask you, what is kind of the appropriate term that you prefer people to address your special learning style? I understand sometimes hearing impairment, that's probably not a good way to address your style. Can you tell us?
Okay, well, I just wanted to clarify. There's a lot of different disabilities, as you know. They can be sensory, it could be mental, it could be physical. You were asking me about my learning style, and there are individuals who have learning disabilities, but I don't necessarily have a learning disability. Mine is more, has to do with a sensory loss.
Okay.
So I just wanted to clarify that. But in terms of how I describe my so-called disability or special need, I call it a few things. Oftentimes I say hearing loss, hard of hearing, maybe hearing impairment. One term I usually do not utilize is deafness. And when I think of the deaf culture, the deaf community, many times they rely on American Sign Language or some sort of other form of communication other than speaking with their voice. And the deaf people also may not hear as well as I could, so that's why I like to stay within the hard of hearing, hearing loss. I do want to say it's really interesting being a hard of hearing individual because we kind of straddle 2 worlds. We have the deaf people on one side where they can't hear very much, and then you have the hearing individuals who can hear pretty well. So it's interesting being a hard of hearing individual because I'm between both worlds, but I don't necessarily fit in it 100%.
Oh.
So that makes communication very interesting.
Okay. So have you registered with our AEC?
I did. When I was at San Jose State for 5 years, I came in as a freshman in 2011. I utilized the services throughout the time I was here at San Jose State. And it was a really good experience for me because we had a lot of really great people who welcomed me, offered their services. But because I am someone who identifies with having a disability very strongly, I also understand that there's the other side of the spectrum where there's individuals or there's students who may not necessarily be willing to seek the services.
Oh, really? So you do know there are students, your fellow students like you, they do not register with AEC?
It happens a lot, and I'm sure as many professors may be aware, disclosure amongst the disability population is very minimal. And there's many reasons why students may not necessarily go to the AEC for assistance. Part of it, it's a lot of shame and a lot of guilt and, you know, having to realize they need a little help. And I can understand where there's a feeling of sort of embarrassment. But there's also the other side where you're here to get an education. And so what I like to try to tell some of my peers is that if they apply for the services is that, yes, you can choose to, you know, not ask for help, but then you'll probably continue to struggle. But there's also the other side. If you go to the AEC or ask for a little extra help in whatever it is that you need, chances are that they might be able to help you. And it's better than not trying,
Right, okay.
because you don't have anything to lose. And I would like to say that part of the reason I think this way, part of the reason why I'm such a huge self-advocate and advocate for my peers is because I was raised in a really positive environment where I was always taught that it's okay to ask for assistance. It's okay to say, you know what, I deserve the services and the education I need to succeed and just be a well-rounded individual. I'm very thankful to have really good parents, really good mentors, a lot of supportive people who really validated me and my successes. So I realize a lot of individuals do not have that. And I think that's why it's really important to have role models or professors or faculty or people who's willing to work with these individuals with disabilities and go that extra mile and say, hey, we can help you. I do have a quick story for you, if that's okay.
Yes, please.
Okay, so I was a junior and I was taking a chemistry class. And so there was a young freshman girl who I sat next to a lot in the front row seat. And I noticed one day when I looked at her ears, she was wearing hearing aids. And we just started talking, and she was asking me about the really interesting devices I was utilizing, like an assistive hearing device or the transcriber I was sitting next to from the AAC. And I said, oh, the university offers some of these services. And so she was really hesitant about it because she had moved from another country and she didn't have the support I had growing up with a hearing loss. So finally, on the last day of the
Oh, so she didn't even know there was such service.
she did not, and not to mention that she was very shy and nervous about going up to them, just because it was just really overwhelming. You know, freshman, huge experience coming to the university for the first time. It's just overwhelming in general. And the fact she wasn't aware of those services was one of those things where I said, hey, you know what, I want to be one of those ambassadors and I want to help somebody out.
Well, thank you. I think you helped that fellow student a lot.
I think I
Opened
did.
her eyes.
I did. You know, it's really wonderful because I didn't see her for about another semester or two, and then I run into her again. And she just seemed so much more confident, just brighter. She was doing better in school, she was making new friends, and we still keep in touch. It's really, really cool because she's told me through emails that she has met a couple of classmates over the years, and she herself has also brought them to the front door of the AAC.
Oh, what a wonderful story.
Oh my goodness. And the last thing I do want to add is she received a scholarship in 2016 for the Associated Students Advocacy Award.
Wow.
So talk about paying it forward.
Yeah, that's really a wonderful story. Now, again, can you tell us kind of how your school life was like? You know, how do you prepare? Do you use, you mentioned what kind of assistive technology do you use? How do you study?
So, because of my hearing loss affects my learning, a lot of it has to do with the communication behind it. And so, if I were, say, in an average day, I'd wake up in the morning and usually I would be charging one of my assistive hearing devices overnight. So I'll make sure to put that in my backpack first thing because that's important. So I will quickly tell you what an assistive hearing device is. There's many forms.
Wow.
This was one of the very first ones that I utilized when I was here at San Jose State.
Okay.
The AEC at that time did not have compatible assisted hearing devices that fit with my particular hearing aids.
So you pay for this?
So I paid for this. I don't have the exact numbers, but it could range from $2,000 to $5,000.
Wow.
So pretty expensive equipment. So this device is one of the many versions of the assisted hearing devices that students and professors will utilize in the classroom. This in particular is called an FM system. And the way it works is the professor will put this around their neck.
Okay.
And so it's hands-free, and they could just let it sit in their neck, and most of the time they'll forget it's even there.
Okay.
The way it works is when the professor speaks, their voice is picked up within this device, and that device transmits directly to my hearing aids.
I see. Okay.
So this is the first one that I received in the very first years I was here at San Jose State. And
Does this record all the lecture, or just...
it does not
No,
record.
just transmission only.
That's correct, just
Okay.
transmission only.
All right.
To give you an idea of what this one in particular, it utilized what we call a little boot. And this boot would
Okay.
be attached to my hearing aids. And so that is how it would receive the transmission from the
Okay.
FM system.
Oh, so the gray, dark gray portion is where you put in your ears, and that's where the FM system transmits. Okay.
That is correct. But, you know, technology changes over time. It improves. It becomes smaller.
Yes.
So most recently, I have a new FM system. And this one, you just kind of clip over like that. So much lighter, much smaller.
Again, the faculty does that.
And the faculty, again, wears it.
Okay.
What's really nice about the idea of downsizing technology is that things become much smaller. And here's the current hearing aid I have, and it doesn't even require the boots that you saw previously in the other version, because sound just goes directly to the hearing aid without an external
I see.
device there. So
So this new version still doesn't record, just transmit.
again, it just transmits. That's correct.
Okay.
So couple funny stories about the FM system in particular, because it's so small and compact.
Yes.
Many times professors will forget they're wearing it.
Uh-huh.
So I remember when I was first learning how to deal with FM systems and hearing aids. I was in 5th grade when I received my first pair of hearing aids and dealt with these interesting devices. So, of course, when you're fairly new at something, things are bound to happen.
Yes.
And I remember in junior high, my professor or teacher, he walked out of the room while we were taking our math exam, and I started hearing bathroom noises. And I realized, oh, he's still wearing the FM system. So I made sure to turn it off on my side, because, you know, no one wants to hear that. So that was quite funny. But, you know, there are times, too, when I forget the professor is wearing the FM system. So usually, you know, I give it to them at the beginning of class, and then I'll take it from them at the end.
Okay.
Sometimes I forget they're wearing it, so I'll walk out the door. Or sometimes I'll be waiting, you know, in a little line because they're talking to other students. And then when it's my turn, they look at me expectantly like, yes, how can I help you? And the officer's like, can I just have that back? So it's nice that it's light and portable and compact, and it does wonders for, you know, being in a classroom. But FM systems, hearing aids, technology in general, we know is not foolproof. So that's why it helps to have a little extra assistance, specifically from the AEC. One of the other services I utilized through them was real-time captioning. So, you know, we have transcribers coming in, and they'll be typing everything that is being said in the classroom.
Yes.
So that was really helpful for me, because when the FM system couldn't catch something that was being said in the classroom, I could just look at the computer screen where my transcriber is typing, and then I could read the things that I missed.
Does that mean for each class, the captioner has to follow you to sit in the room together with you? You are the one making the arrangement.
That is correct.
Okay.
So usually it's not the same transcriber. What I'll do, so let me tell you a little bit about what I'll do at the beginning of the year. Usually it's the student's job to be a self-advocate for themselves in a college setting. And so one of the things I'm responsible for doing is once I receive my class schedule, I have to fill out several forms to the AEC and let them know I would like to request a transcriber, a real-time captioner.
This is in addition to your hearing aids.
This is in addition to the hearing aids and in addition to the FM system. So I will request a transcriber, and the transcribers will show up. Sometimes they will follow me through the day. Other times I'll have different transcribers assigned to me.
Wait a minute. Earlier you said captioner, now you say transcriber.
Okay.
Are they the same person?
Thank you. Yes, they are the same person. I'm sorry. So I should be aware of that. You can call them transcribers,
Okay.
or you can call them captioners. So
Okay.
thank you for clarifying that. I use them interchangeably because I'm familiar with the language, but I realize
But
that I
there's
should
also
be.
the term called interpreter. Are they the same?
Okay, interpreters are different.
Okay.
Interpreters are usually for individuals who need American Sign Language interpretation because these students are deaf or they may have some other communication challenge.
So interpreter are more for deaf.
So interpreter is different. Captioner and transcriber can be the same.
Okay.
Yeah.
I see.
Thank you for asking about that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So does AEC provide you with this FM and hearing aid, or you have to cover that yourself?
So it really depends on the individual. I utilize hearing aids and a personal FM system because it's compatible with the devices I already own.
Okay.
But when I first came to San Jose State and looked at the FM systems they provided, it wasn't compatible with my hearing aids.
I see.
So that's why I went about requesting my own personal assistive hearing device from the government. The AEC does offer assistive hearing technology, though, especially for individuals who may not have hearing aids. And I personally am not familiar with them, but I do know it's offered for those who need it.
Okay. But in general, so it's AEC provides you with captioner or transcriber for your studying.
That's correct. There's many services AEC offers, and their Hard of Hearing and Deaf Center is the main. It's a branch within AEC that I communicated mostly with. I also utilize testing accommodations.
Yes.
So extended time in a quiet room, and that was especially helpful for me because hearing aids amplify sounds.
Yes.
And so it can make me very sensitive to things going on in the room. It can be distracting during the exam. So, you have papers shuffling, or maybe doors opening and closing, or maybe someone sneezing in the back. And that can be distracting for me because my hearing aids amplify everything.
Oh, I see.
So that's why it's very helpful not only to have a quieter room, but extended time to be able to process.